There we go. All right. So we're here in sunny Florida, and we are attending the 2024 Champions Club with Man Mortgage. Woo. Right? And everybody in this panel thus far is a part of why we are here today. And I just wanted to go over kind of different topics, spitfire a couple of different things. First, I want to start with what you guys got out of the first 2 days of this event. Corey, you want to start?
Just being able to be here and celebrate as one of our core values is super cool. We talk about that all the time. Our branch and our people in our branch, we always talk about celebrating. So being able to actually celebrate with everybody is super cool. The opportunity to listen to people yesterday in the senior exec branch, our senior exec board, was just kind of hearing their vision, where we're at, where we're going, was great. Today, to listen to just some of those champions and to hear their story and what drives them every day, get up every day. I think I'm a little bit where Corey Henderson was, kind of, an old guy, feeling tired, and got to figure out a way to kick myself in the butt and get back to, doing the right things, doing those things consistently. And maybe not just for me, but even for my team. I'm trying to do less production, but taking those things that I listened to everybody today talk about, taking those home and implementing those with the team, I think would be valuable.
And I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I believe that with someone like yourself that's been in the mortgage business for a while, similar to Corey, the other Corey, it's not necessarily having to reinvent the wheel. It's now turning it into content that you can share, you can educate others. And a lot of folks are like, well, how do I start? What do I do? Well, you've been doing it your whole career. Now just press record.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
I think that's pretty cool. Another thing that I do find pretty awesome is Man Mortgage is a little big company, in the sense that not very many mortgage companies do you get the opportunity to hear from a panel of the sim, so to speak. And you're so close to their ideas and influence in the next moves that they make. Whereas bigger companies, they give two shits what you think, to be honest. They care about the bottom line. They don't really, I'll give an example. I was with Academy Mortgage for 9 years. When I left, I didn't get a phone call. None of that. And it was one of those things that throughout the whole career of being there, I thought that I was valued. I thought that they respected my opinions and what we were doing. But the moment that I was gone or thinking about leaving, it was, we'll get somebody else that can fulfill what you were doing. And I do believe that Man not only respects quickly the people that they have, but they listen. They listen and then they implement. They find ways to implement those ideas. And obviously, if you have a dumb idea, nobody's shy, straight talk. That was dumb, I can respect that too.
Might even try it if it's dumb.
You never know. Yeah.
Rod and I had that talk just the other day. We were waiting for our plane about how we are unique and we're different in that being here for, I think it's just over 10 years now, we do have the ability at the branch level to influence so much of what happens in this company. We're not a company where somebody decides something at the top and then they just push it down. We were joking about, years ago at a marketing or at a manager's meeting, one of the marketing people back then, who's no longer here, said, hey, we're going to change the logo. Something as simple as that had been talked about at the senior exec, but never talked to a branch, never talked to branch managers. It was brought out as this great idea, had a great PowerPoint, but quickly shot down because of the expense of it. And it was at a time where margins were compressed and whatnot. And so we were able to, as branch managers, say, we don't want to do that right now. Maybe there's some sense in it, but the fact that didn't just get shoved down to where it cost my branch $10,000, $15,000 to rebrand, redo signs and whatnot. A lot of companies that would just be done. Here, it's going to hit your P&L. We're going to do this because somebody thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen here a lot. There's things that come down. I mean, Rod's done so good with products and stuff. He's done a great job. And it's just, here, go try this, go do this, go do that. It might not work for every branch. It doesn't have to work for every branch.
Right.
Here.
Right. That's very, very true. Isaac, what do you think? What's been going on this past couple of days?
Yeah, no, I love this trip. I look forward to it every year. The panels are awesome, the trainings and stuff that we do. But honestly, I think the most value I get out of it is the opportunity to rub shoulders with all these champions throughout the week.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of these good ideas are talked about and had. And I mean, I know I've walked away with tons of good ideas. I mean, this group that we have here is honestly, the best of the best. You have, and the other thing I love about it is you have so many different styles too.
Sure.
And so you can look at what one guy A does and guy B does and see what you think might work best for you.
Sure.
And I love the ideas that I walk away with after trips like this, and just the motivation and it gets you pumped up. It
Absolutely.
really does. And I love that we do it the first of the year. I think that's important.
Kind of sets the tone for what is to come, and getting all of these like-minded individuals in rooms, it just breeds more ideas, like you were saying, but more so, this isn't a room that just shares ideas. It's a room of people that take those ideas and actually implement them. You can, going to, let's say, all of these realtors, lenders, they go to these motivational talks or these seminars. And I think the statistic is like 99% of the people, they leave there happy, but they don't ever do anything about it. So hence they then go to the next one and the next one, and all they're doing is motivating themselves temporarily, when the concept is go apply this shit. Like, go use it, go fail forward many times.
Motivation is nothing if you don't have discipline.
That's very true. Yeah. But I think that it's cool to be able to leave something like this and then see Deborah Criddle doing podcasting, seeing different people, incorporating different stuff, like making the push for social media. Hey, we've got to jump on social media. Great. We leave here and nobody posts.
Yeah.
Whereas this group, we leave here and we're going to see some posts. We're going to see, hey, did it work? How does it work? Share your ideas. Continue to share your ideas. And I think that's super cool. It takes a special group of individuals to be able to do that and work as a unit, in my opinion. So, Rod, what you got in 2024 coming up, man?
We got a lot coming in 2024. So
you got that 1-900 number voice.
heck yeah, come on down.
How much per minute do I got to pay you for this?
All of it. But yeah, so you asked the question about what we saw from this. So I got two answers to that. First one, I'll play your little fun podcast,
please
game a little bit, and then we're gonna flip some shit up a little.
Okay.
Bit. So the first one that I love, I mean, being here, to me being here is a great testament to kind of how Man Mortgage is and how it's different than a lot of other places. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, so many places are run by org chart. Mm. So if you draw out an org chart, I am a product manager, which means I'm a manager of nobody at the very bottom of an org chart.
Right.
So at places that only go by job title and org chart, I'm not here.
Right.
I'm not here doing it. I'm not, asking questions to the champions panel. I'm not on the trip. I mean, that's the way it's always been, because it's like, oh, well, it's the champions and you're
product guy behind the scenes.
You're down here on the org chart, you got other managers and all this stuff. So they can, why are you there? Why would we bring you? And here it's like, well, you contribute. Mm-hmm. So you got to be there. And I love that about this, because you see it all across the company. People that have ideas have things to contribute. You bring it up, you show why it's a good idea, and we find ways to get it done. Mm-hmm. And that's where it's like the people matter more, and that's where it's the we and the sales first. And those type of things really come, you see it here, because the people that contribute get rewarded and get recognized and get all that stuff. The second thing that I learned from being here is that we are in Clearwater, Florida, which is the home of Hulk Hogan. So let me tell you what, brother, this podcast, it is not going to go the way of your normal little Key Fasters podcast.
That's awesome.
I'll tell you what, brother,
Rod ripping off
when the Hulkamaniacs come through and we want to talk about mortgages, it's not going to be your little Rudy Poo candy ass normal way of talking about it. Is we're going to get after it here.
Let's get after it,
because we're going to talk about. So I'm sidetracking it. You're no longer.
Let's go.
I'm the captain now. So
yes, I'm the captain now.
Look at me. I'm the captain now, Mark
awesome.
Jones. And I want to flush this out with you guys, because I respect your opinion and stuff like that. So This is really 2024 is the first year that I'm sitting down, actually writing very specific, smart goals and things like that. And in thinking about it, I'm looking at this year. My opinion is 2024 is going to be pretty much like 2023 in terms of the market. When you think of rates, when you think of dynamics, stuff for sale, houses for sale, I think it's going to trend up a little bit towards the end, but I think most of the year, we're not going to get a vastly different market dynamic. So it's going to be on us as people to do more, to do this stuff. And so it's one of those where, to a certain extent, is I don't think the market and everything is going to be there to support ultimately where I want to get in 2024.
That makes sense. Yep.
So for me, 2024 is 2020 FOR. What are you building for?
Ooh.
It is building the thing where it's not building the car in 2024. It's building the factory that builds cars.
Yeah.
Of doing the activities that are going to build something that when 2025 comes around and things start getting better, that our lives do this, not just this.
Right.
So it's all about really focusing on specific activities and doing specific things like that, where it's really a focus. And so that's where I'm seeing this year of plugging away with, and it goes to, there's an old Winston Churchill quote where it's like the definition of success is failing continuously without a loss of motivation. So I think this year, and especially as somebody that works in a operational role, I'm on a salary.
Right.
And that stuff gets evaluated at the end of the year. So for me, I have very aggressive goals for 2024.
Sure.
And ultimately, the financial reward for that's going to come off of the financial success of the company.
Yep.
And I look at it, I go, we'll do better, but we're not going to be,
right.
that stuff. So it's like, okay, I'm going to plug away real hard all through 24 to probably not get a big financial reward. Right. But it's setting up those things of doing these actions so that when 2025 comes around, which then in 2025, I'm going to have to plug away again, so that at the end of it, it's
payday.
So it's one of those where it's for me, it's about, okay, coming in with the right attitude of 2 years of plugging away to get the reward. Then it's not just okay, I did all the things I was supposed to do this week. I ate salads all week and I worked out twice and I didn't lose 40 pounds.
Right.
Right. It's going to be, I think it's going to be the slow grind. So I'm curious what you guys have set up for your 2024. What's your outlook and your goals?
What you're talking about, I believe, is needle moving activities, critical success factors, money making moves, the things that we put within our daily activities that are income generating. I believe that we're going to continue to see a cleanse of our market in 2024. And I'm talking realtors, lenders. There will be business that goes on, and there will be more business than last year that goes on. But I do believe that the top, let's call it 1%, is going to be doing most of the business. That is typical, but I think more so this year because I believe the top 1% of originators are starting to get the idea that, the old saying, if you build it, they will come. I call bullshit. Why? Because if they don't know about it, how are they going to get there? Right. So we're starting to get out of the comfort zone and showcasing our level of expertise, call it, in reels, in videos, in social media world. The layman consumer only gets to see your abilities if it's time for them to refinance or purchase. And if they never saw any of your content, well, then you're based on that referral's based on, is the realtor going to send it to me? Whereas I believe we have a very strong opportunity to attract more business personally than we've ever had realtors send to us. Why? Because realtors aren't getting as much business as they used to either. In addition, consumers are getting wiser. Oddly, we keep talking about Gen Z and Gen X or whoever the heck, the next generation that are lazy and on their mom's couch, blah, blah, blah. That's not all the way true. They know how to use their smartphone to find what they're looking for. and the information that they're looking for is out there. So it's like they are getting pre-qualified. I've had more people in the last 2 years come to me first before the realtor than ever before in my career.
I think that's a message we just have to keep driving to.
Yeah.
And you wonder what's going to happen with this NAR lawsuit, the whole buyer's thing. Is the buyer's agent going to kind of completely change? And it's going to have to. And the more that we can do that and get in front of those buyers and be that first contact for those buyers and be in that know, I think you're absolutely right. We need to be driving that.
I want to expound a little bit on what Rod said about, because I think it was pretty insightful saying 2024 isn't the year yet. Because if you watch the media, listen to realtors, and I mean, everyone had such a hard year last year. They're ready for it, right? Yeah. They're ready for the year. They want it to be this year. So I think and I agree with Rod. I think it's going to be eye opening for a lot of people listening to this. And so I think with that comes the challenge of us as LOs of curbing expectations,
right,
and having those conversations. Because I mean, if you look at just at the end of last year when they the Fed just hinted at rates might come down next year, and the market did. There was a little bit of a dip there. Yeah. But I saw so many, realtors and different people saying rates are getting better, and it starts creating this urgency. Yep. And that's where it's important for us as the experts and to kind of curb those expectations and say, you know what, it's a little bit better. But
it hasn't changed dramatically.
I mean, nothing's really been done yet. They're not talking. They're not. I mean, March, right? Is when they're talking about actually doing it. So it's important for us to come off as that expert and to kind of educate people on and set those expectations that hopefully it's better than last year, but it's not. It's not going to be a drastic change, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think one of the things about setting expectations is our own internally too. So that's one of those where that's what I'm talking about when I talk about is for 2024 FOR is building the habits. You guys are kind of talking about it. And how I kind of see it. And I think what you're saying is where I'm getting at is you have to keep calling on those realtors, bringing the insight, bringing the content, bringing the knowledge, even though they're not sending you deals, is creating that habit where I'm calling this group of realtors to talk about what's going on and doing all this stuff every 3
Keeping
weeks,
them updated
all year and next year, even if they don't send me a deal because other people aren't doing that.
Right.
And I think that's the big thing where it's like my goals for this year are more along the lines of creating those habits than get 1.2 loans per realtor. It's like, no, you got to, this is going to be the year where it's creating those habits. This is the year of farming, not hunting, of planting as many seeds as possible, but the land's free. So you get to keep building it so that once the crops start coming up, you have a bigger ranch.
Yeah.
And that's the analogy I keep using because I mean, frankly, if you're hungry, you can either plant crops or you can shoot animals. And we've shot all the animals the last couple of years, but this is one of those where it's like, okay, you can just keep planting. You're out there in the field with a hungry stomach, but keep planting, and then now you have a bigger field and you own more
Reap
land
what you sow.
Once it comes through. And I think that's the big thing with that. So Corey,
no animals were harmed
that
in the
t-shirt already copyrighted 2024.
FOR. That's pretty smart.
Still working on that one. So yeah.
Better get that in mind.
License it to Simon Sinek because I mean I think that's what it goes back to is getting back to your
start
why.
With your why.
This year is going to be a run with your why thing.
I joke about that, but what a great piece of marketing for us to actually take that and use that.
No, I agree 100%. And
talk about that.
You and I were having a conversation yesterday, and I think now is the best time within this platform to tell your story, because a lot of loan officers tend to rely on rates to eat. And what I mean by that is there's no other value other than I can give you a payment that's within what you're asking for versus educating you on all the nuances of owning a home and how you can leverage and what it looks like down the road and how interest works, amortization, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a situation to where you're able to practice what you preach in a certain scenario. And recently you were able to do that. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. We were talking just yesterday about how we've been talking for the last, year, 6 months about, rates are here, rates are going to come down. We all expect that, and what happens when that happens, prices go up. Prices go up pretty much anyways,
Right.
And so what we were talking about was a year ago this weekend, actually, my wife and I have a second home in Phoenix. We were kind of just kicking around the idea. We weren't in love with the house. My wife loved the backyard. She loved the pool, but we weren't in love with the house. And so we were kind of looking around. Secretly, I really wanted not secretly, she knows. I wanted a big garage. I wanted
She's sitting right
yeah,
there.
I know. She's right here. I wanted that RV garage to put toys in. Right?
Yeah.
And so we were kind of poking around the neighborhood we were in, and fell upon this neighborhood that had big RV garage with a 2-car on top of that. And I was like, we should do this. She's like, we're nuts. She's an agent, a broker back in Montana. And we were both kind of like, well, this is nuts. We're at 2.25 on our rate on the house that we had. But we weren't in love with the house.
Right.
And so we took that opportunity to get into that new house. I was hoping the rates would maybe have gone down by the end of the year, like we all thought. But, so we gave up that rate.
Yeah.
And that was a really tough thing to do. And so when we're talking to people about that want to move into that second home or third home or their dream home or maybe build that dream home, I like you said, I practice what we've been preaching, right? We gave up that super low interest rate. We bought the new house that we're going to just love. And what's happened though, like you and I talked past that, was exactly what we've talked about is that, we secured that house at this price a year ago this weekend, and the lot was at X price. In the year since then, we just actually closed last month in December. So we got the keys. The price of that lot that we have, the one right next to us, just got sold. The upcharge on the price, it's one of these production builders.
Mm-hmm.
The upcharge on the lot next door when we bought it was $15,000. It's now over $50,000.
Wow.
The base price on the house that we started on is up probably $60,000 to $70,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that price of that house is over 10 or 15% higher than it was a year ago. Mm-hmm. And so everything that we've talked about, that we preach about, that we talk to people about, you can wait.
Right.
And you can wait. Rates might come down, but as the value goes up and the rate comes down, you're going to be right where you were. Plus, the other piece of that is that when I bought that lot last year, we were probably the fourth, maybe fifth house, couple to buy in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
There's now 30 houses built
Wow.
in that neighborhood, and there's maybe 15 lots left.
Mm.
And so hence the reason price goes up.
That's right.
So everything we talk about with our clients during the those discussions is exactly what happened to me.
Right.
Everything's gone up. If I'd have waited,
You'd be paying more.
the rate is where it is,
Yeah.
and I'd have paid more for it.
And it comes down to the individual. I mean, in your own circumstance here, you weren't buying a second house because you wanted a low interest rate. You were buying a second house because you wanted a second house. You wanted to enjoy that house, and so it's when as a loan officer, you can't be a number to people. You've got to see that you're helping them accomplish something that they're wanting to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, maybe this is a higher rate, but now you're in a house that you're going to enjoy more. You got to figure out what their goals are and what we can do to help them make those goals. So I love that example.
So a great way to say it is we are helping folks realize, obtain, and understand the quality of life that they're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That could be kicked around for whether it's your first house, your second home like we
Right.
did, or investment properties.
Uh-huh.
I've got people that are still they're eager to buy another rental,
Yep.
buy that next rental. And most of those clients get it. They've
Right.
done that first home or they've done their first investment and they get that process and they're like, man, if I can make it cash flow right now,
Yep.
it's only going to get better.
Yeah, the past
when I
six
refinance.
6 locks that I've put in end of last month and beginning of this month have all been second home or investment purchases for folks that already have a home. They're not intending to sell it. They understand the value of real estate and holding it, and over time, regardless of what the market's doing, you're going to win as long as you don't sell it in a down market. And in certain places like Texas, I don't even know what the hell a down market is. I mean, it just keeps rising.
Well, and you don't have to have a down market if you have the right mindset in this business, because we're talking about rates. So, talking about it from a loan officer, real estate agent point of view is, I think one of the great takes I've heard on this recently is Rene Rodriguez, who we're all familiar with as a great industry trainer on the psychology and neuroscience of sales, is I heard him on a different podcast one day, and he was talking about how as an industry, we can't be mad that all of our clients are so focused on what interest rates are, where they don't want to buy because of interest rates, because we spent 3 years training them that all that matters from 19, 20 into 21. That's all everybody talked about was, oh, interest rates are low. They're 2%, they're 3%, 3%. We train them on that.
Well, I mean, in addition, and I'll add to that, don't mean to cut you off, but when was the last time you saw a commercial on TV that's talking about equity, that's talking about leverage of your property? It's always rate. Wells Fargo, Chase, that's all they push is interest rates. So basically, to your point, we're being pre-planned or pre-programmed to think just rate.
Yeah, and the mortgage business never learns its lessons. I mean, that's something we are so dense in this, because and now we're seeing the extreme version of that, where everybody spent all this time training our clients, training our referral partners that all that matters is rate. And now a lot of people, there's the old thing where it's like, okay, if you say something long enough or you defend your weaknesses enough, you get to keep them. As now we have a ton of loan officers who that's all they think about. And now they're running, and you hear this, brokers are better. Brokers are better. Brokers are better. Why are brokers better? Lower rates. Okay, so you spent 20 years becoming an expert, a professional. You're a professional loan officer. You're an expert. I'm an expert. Who the hell spends 20 years becoming an expert with the goal of lowering your prices?
Yeah, touche. Yeah,
no, what other industry do you do that where it's like, I am
the race to the bottom.
I am the best lawyer in America, and I will defend you tooth and nail and save you from multi-million-dollar lawsuits. And I'm the cheapest lawyer in America.
That's a damn good point.
It is.
It really is.
Is that what's going on in schools? Is like, hey, learn a craft, become an expert, lower your prices.
Yeah, you don't go to Neiman Marcus because they're affordable.
Sense?
Yeah. You go because they're the best.
Because they're the best.
That's right.
Everything is that way. It's a home builder. It's whatever. You want the lowest bidder. You're going to get the lowest bidder house.
The cheap wines are always worth the headache the next morning.
Good point. Dog. That's a great analogy.
But it's a great point that you make, that we as an industry, it seemed like it was a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
Who can give the lower rate, and how many of us, those that are branch managers that have had loan officers come in and they're like, the bank down the street's offering them a quarter point better.
And your response is,
what can we do?
Go work for the bank.
And and it's like, you've got to learn how to sell something other than the rate.
That's right.
If you're going to be just the cheapest, like you said, go to the bank. If you want to have that lowest rate because the bank will just drop their drawers and do whatever, then maybe you need to be at the bank. But if you can go sell the other things that we have, and I think that that's one of the things that coming to this meeting, going back to what we talked about, interacting with everybody and getting those things that you use when you're talking to your clients and referral partners. I got a deal that we're closing tomorrow. Just got a message from the agent, wow, again, you guys knocked it out of the park. I had another loan with so-and-so and they're still trying to close it. They're on their third extension, and they see what we do, how well we do it, and the service that's there. And that's worth something.
And I think Vicky said it earlier today, and it resonated with me because I'm a firm believer in what she mentioned. And it's not necessarily selling unless you think of it that way. It's now, in this day and age, educating. You've got to educate and find what channel or what outlet is going to be the best for your viewers, listeners, customer, clientele, whatever you want to call them, to receive that education. I think that the idea of selling something, this next generation, they don't want to be sold. They want to be educated. They want to know what they can do. every facet to it. Did I miss any options? Okay, am I making the smartest decision? Because let's face it, we want them to believe like we listen to our parents, but it's not until later in life that we
actually
really listen to our parents, right?
Yeah.
This generation, I could be speaking nonsense, but
No, I
I
think you're
just
right.
feel like they believe that they know more than their parents. And in some cases, they actually do because they know where to get the information. They have quick access to it. And you don't have to go to school to learn what they're learning these days. It's all there. They're in
their
tune with
pocket.
YouTube. Go
In their
ahead.
pocket. They just have all that info.
That's correct.
It's as soon as they have a question, they can get it answered.
Yes. And it's not, I mean, Chat GPT, they know how to use it. So let's stop playing the smoke and mirrors and song and dance, and let's just give them what they want. Like, here you go. Let's go through the process with them and not shortchange our message.
And I'll add to that too, though. That's why it's even more important to come across as the expert on it, because let's be honest, yeah, they have all that. They can go on their phone and get an answer. They can also get the wrong answer.
Absolutely.
Yep. So it's very important to come across as an expert and show that value in that way.
Yep.
I
mean, to your point, instead of trying to combat them or overpower what they're already going to do, give them the cliff notes on where they need to go to find the right answers. And they'll go, well, wait a minute, you're sending me somewhere else? No, I mean, you're going to do it anyway. So why not go to a trusted resource? This is what I use as a lender. So you might as well use it.
That's a great transition. I was about to transition it over to, okay, so delivering the education, 100% believe, and I believe that's what we want. So the question is how do you use that to drive sales into yourself?
Personally, because I'm a nerd, like I'll give you one example that we're getting ready to roll out, which is LoanBot. Partner and I created the ability for consumers to have their custom link, put in their information. No credit has been pulled, but because we've got awesome partners, all of the loan programs that Man Mortgage offers, that consumer can see if they qualify for them right then and there on their phone. So me being the loan officer in this case scenario, I can see transparently what these consumers are saving to their dashboard. I can see what they're interested in. Oh, well, there's 3 bonds. There's a USDA loan in here, and it literally says I'm looking for the least amount of money down program. Wonder what I'm going to talk about in that phone call. You know what I'm saying? There's no guesswork. I don't have to ask too many questions to get to halfway into a presentation where it would take us 30 minutes. I just fast track that first 15 minutes, and now we can have a back end 15-minute conversation about different opportunities. Have you considered going multifamily, multiplex? Now you're an investor day one. It breeds those kinds of conversations that then intrigues more from them when typically we've got to pry that stuff out of them because they're holding guard to it, I guess. How about you guys?
No, it's interesting, your LoanBot, because how many times have we all sat down with somebody and half an hour into conversation, you figure out that, oh, maybe a duplex would be a good idea for these folks, and I've done that with, I don't know how many times first time homebuyers come in and they're like, you know what, I want to buy a house, I want to do this. And we've got them into a duplex option. It's like all of a sudden now they're, a landlord. Important question to ask. Do you feel like you want to be a landlord at some point in your life? Because if you have no interest in doing that, then we'll bypass
cross that off.
Yeah.
But I have so many young couples that I've helped over the years that are now on their 3rd or 4th rental, and it was because that first time they came in to see me, they could afford a $90,000 condo. That's what they could do. And instead they were able to buy a $190,000 or $200,000 duplex.
Right.
Sure.
And it was a complete game changer for them. And so having something that can ask those questions, do you have any interest in being I don't know if LoanBot asked that. Do you have any interest in being a landlord at some point in your life? That's a good question.
Yeah.
A great line I'm using that I saw in a training that I put into my realtor presentations is, I heard it on a different training where the guy said, I don't know if this is for you, but do you know anybody interested in making money in real estate outside of their primary residence? And it's a great linguistic trick because I studied things like neuro-linguistic programming and things like that, because everybody's so pre-programmed to be like, okay, somebody's going to sell me something. So when you go actually
the guard is up.
So when you actually go, I don't this probably won't be for you. You actually go, oh, okay. And then you say something that obviously is for them. It sidetracks that wall of stuff. And it's one of those where it's like, A, it's asking for referrals, but it's also going to make them kind of think about it for themselves. So I thought that was a great line words. And then it transitions into a lot of different things we can do as far as lending to help get people into second homes, investment properties and things like that. But yeah, the education thing, and it also, what you're saying, Corey, reminded me of, I was on a training recently with a guy, Phil M. Jones, who wrote a book called Exactly What to Sell. And it was really, really good training. And he was preaching hard in there of something that I remember doing back when I was selling. Was his premise was, you never try to sell anybody anything until you can say, because you said this, and because you said this, and because you said this, I recommend this. So until you have 3 specific things that they said, you haven't built enough rapport with them to actually present an option. You haven't built up, you haven't got to know them well enough, you haven't asked enough questions, you haven't got to know them, and things like that, where it comes in. And I thought that was a great approach and a great thought process to it, is you have to have 3 things that they have said that you can reference before you ever pitch.
That's exactly something that my branch manager, David Manskoik, always says, is nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And I've locked onto that. It's
I believe that because of 2019, 2020, 2021, beginning of 2022, we as loan officers, and not just me, I'm talking everybody, because there was so much business.
Capital W, capital We.
Yeah, we shortchanged the high trust interview. You guys heard of high trust interview? That you're all I'm focused on. I'm asking you questions, and it's not to be intrusive, but I need to know these things before I give you any kind of recommendations, to your point. And it is a conversation that is intended to build your rapport, to build that care piece of the presentation, and then also to showcase your expertise. Because you told me this, and this is what I would recommend for you as the expert. Do you understand that concept, or do you understand why I'm recommending you that? Then have them repeat it back to you. Now they just got value, and guess what? Everybody likes to feel smart, so they're going to leave, go to their friend's house, or go to the next party and regurgitate all the shit that you just told them because they want to feel smart.
Yeah.
Mark.
Plus
there's Mark's number.
See what I'm saying?
Plus, they're selling themselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
There you go.
you are your own most trusted authority.
Yes.
Where it's like, so it's one of those where it's they're selling themselves because you're just saying what they've already told you, and it sticks with the principle of consistency. So one of the best books on selling ever is a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini, where he isolates the 6 most influential things on people, and one of them is consistency. And that's why when you go to buy a car, single car salesman does that little Foursquare thing where they sit down and they're going to ask you, oh, what do you want your payment to be? And then they're going to come back and be like, okay, well, I can get you that payment you want, Mark. It's just that, we're going to put it on a 4,000 month loan and at a good interest rate. And then, we got you into that payment. And you're like, well, I don't want to.
You're not even thinking about the car anymore.
I'm not going to have this car for 42 years. So why am I doing that? It's like, well, you said you wanted that payment. You said that if we could get you into that car for $540 a month, that you would want to. You said you liked the car. You said you just, and that's the thing is it's using the people's consistency, because you've already said something. Now you're like, well, I guess I said that, so I'm an asshole if I'm buying a car if I don't take it.
Yeah,
and you're like, yeah, I guess I did say that and all that stuff. And it's like, I've been in there and I've gone in and tried to help people, friends that are buying cars, because if you don't have an emotional attachment to somebody, I've straight up looked at it, I was like, yeah, I mean, and I get what you're doing, because I've read the book that your sales trainers taught you. I've literally said this to a car salesman.
Same,
it's like,
look, man, I was in the car business.
I get what you're doing, but I've also read the books that your sales trainers read when they taught you to do this, because it's called the principle of consistency. What I'm telling you right now is, I don't care. I'm not taking this deal because I don't want a 96-month car loan on a 6-year-old car.
Right.
So
What? Why
I don't
not?
care about consistency. So that's
Yep.
one of those words. But it's using it in that way because the customer said, okay, because you said this and you said this and you said this, basically you said you want this solution.
Right.
And
I gave
it's
it to
the
you right
unconscious
here on the-
answer,
There you
right?
go.
I take the Foursquare and
Yeah, exactly.
The best one that we used to use was, if I could get this payment to this, would you buy today? Oh, absolutely. Would you do me a favor and just like sign right here on this blank piece of paper so I can take it to my
Yeah, there you
manager?
go. Consistency.
Yeah. They're like,
I sold
okay,
it. I sold
you think you can
equipment.
do that? I don't know, but they're going to see that signature and go, he's buying today if we can do this.
I sold heavy equipment. We couldn't use that Foursquare on selling a dozer. It was either
$400,000 dozer.
Yeah.
It didn't quite work
either
the same.
did it or didn't, and payment probably didn't matter to the contractor.
No,
you know?
not at
So,
all.
Yeah.
Well, this is some good stuff.
Well, I want to bring back one more thing to kind of button
Okay,
it up. So
go
I want to
ahead.
get you guys' thought on this. So I brought a little snippet. I was going back through and rereading some stuff from a book, and I think kind of what we're talking about here today, and when we're talking about 2020 FOR, is, we're talking about things like education. So that isn't, one of those things that, well, I put out a video and I didn't get 5 loans, so why would I do another video? Why would I put out the education? We're reaching out to these things is, to me, like, there's a concept called chunking up. So it's like going up to a next bigger picture point of view of things. And how is, kind of how it's described to me as chunking up. So it's like, okay, so Honda Accord, chunking it up is a Honda, chunking it up, it's a sedan, chunking it up, it's a automobile, which is a vehicle, which is a way of getting around. So kind of
Oh, I see what you're saying.
going
Yep.
up to like a bigger picture point of view of stuff, and kind of where,
Bird's eye view.
yeah. So it's going up to like the bigger, broader concept of things. And I really like this book. So there's a book called Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield, who is more famous for the book of The War of Art.
Okay. I've heard of the
And-
War of Art.
Yeah, it's a good book, great book. And it's
Not the Art of War, the War of
The
Art.
War of Art.
Mhm.
So a lot of what it talks about is, even if you're in an artistic point of view or you have a job that has a certain level of flexibility, is setting up time, setting up practices to do your art. So his theory is, if even if you're a writer, which he is, if you show up and you write every day, that's going to attract the muse, God, happenstance, all this stuff to like bring things better back to you. And then his second book was about turning pro. And I think this is a big thing of where people that are going to excel in 2024 and then explode in 25 are the people that decide to go pro in 2024. So he talks about the act of turning pro starts with an epiphany, which feels like hell. So he's talking about that you discover something about yourself where you're like, I'm not doing that. It's, I got to start doing social media, even though I don't like being on camera. I got to do podcasts, even though I don't want to do it. I need to, I got out of the habit of calling realtors. I'm doing things. So it starts with an epiphany, which feels like hell. It trashes us, it exposes us, and leaves us naked. Because the essence of an epiphany is the stripping away of self-delusion. In that moment, we can reconstitute our bullshit or turn pro. Before we turn pro, we live in a life of fear and resistance, which dominates us. When we stop running from our fears and face them, the pro knows that every day he will wake up and face the same fears and demons. The professional shows up every day and stays all day, is committed for the long haul, sets stakes that are high and real, is patient and courageous, will not be distracted, acts in the face of fear, has compassion for themselves, dedicates himself to the mastering of technique, is ruthless on himself, and does not take failure or success personally.
I like that. I mean, he's on the money, in my opinion.
So like thinking of where we have to do, your teams, yourself in
Mhm.
2024, like what does that hit home for you?
It absolutely does, because me and my role, I am shifting back, or have shifted back, to a more production role in producing loans versus just leading and mentoring and coaching. So I was reluctant to do that. So there was, okay, how do I think of alternatives so I can continue to give presentations, to continue to coach loan officers, to do podcasting, create content, putting it off on another loan officer. These leads come in, you take them. And I had to just go, you know what? Suck it up, Buttercup.
The epiphany.
Correct. And it was like, this is what predominantly got you here in life, Mark. Like, You wouldn't live in the house that you live. You wouldn't have the vacations. You wouldn't have the knowledge that you have had you not been a damn good producer. So that in itself was that epiphany moment. And it was like, okay, so you've only got 24 hours in a day. What is going to be put on the back burner by me doing this? And in all honesty, nothing. It's just rearranging your calendar, making sure what your priorities are that matter to you. And the reason why I say that is there's a lot of folks that talk about balance. It's like, you got to have balance in your life. You got to have a good home life, your health, everything. I call bullshit.
Find a top, real top producers that have any kind of balance.
No, it's about prioritization.
It doesn't happen.
Because you can go hard for several months and then take a full week off, 2 weeks off, spend it with your family. That vacation, I guarantee you, is going to be more impactful to your family, that you're able to really unplug and pay attention to them, than the half-assed time that you would have spent trying to squeeze it into the day, every day, etc. Now, to each their own, but I do believe that in order to have a great life, the things that I didn't have growing up, and I'm not saying that I didn't grow up well. I love my parents, love what they were able to provide for us, but I know now in these shoes that I have the ability to do more for my family. And I think that's what my parents' intents was. I think that's all our intentions. We want our kids to do better than we do.
And I think that's the big thing. What you just said there is living up to your ability.
Yes.
It's like when you feel like you have the ability.
I've got more.
You have more.
I've got more.
It's like, and that's where it's like I use a lot of times with myself, I steal a term from appraisals, highest and best use. From appraisal and stuff like that is trying to find my own highest and best use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because time, we don't get it back.
No,
it's just the one thing that is a commodity of finite for each person. We never know when, but I want to be able to look back and go, all right, I gave it my all, and I was able to spend time with my family, and we were able to make memories, and I changed these people's lives. And whereas honestly, growing up, none of this stuff was even in the radar, right? It's like there's no way you're going to be that guy that can change X amount of people's lives on an annual basis. And that's just, I guess, remembering that and owning it.
I was kind of down the same path as you sound like, getting out of the production, trying to do more mentoring and managing of the team. And I was on that path, kind of had to go back, kind of like what you're saying a little bit. And there's got to be a balance there. I can't get completely out of that.
Right.
And even at some point, I don't know how old you are, but I'm older than all of you guys. And, but at some point when I'm not wanting to manage that branch anymore, and whoever has that branch, I got friends that are 60, 62, 63 that I've met where I'm at in Phoenix now, for my winter home, that are still doing the production side of it, and they're like, I do 2-3 loans a month. It's great. And so it kind of went full circle. They went the production real heavy, really good at it, managed. Some, like you said, really good at that part of it.
Right.
And Jason's, has said before, just go do what you're really good at. You're really good at doing loans.
Yeah.
And the other part of it, you're pretty good at it too, but you've got to keep that part of it.
Right.
And so finding that balance just in the work life for me, not even talking about the home part. My kids are growing up now. They're 21 and 25. And you're right. Your time with them is short. You've got younger kids. And finding that balance. I love that you said trying to squeeze it in a 3-day weekend here with them and trying to squeeze that in doesn't work.
No.
And my wife would attest I loved it when she got her real estate license. She was a teacher for 25 years and she got her license. And I'll never forget the first time, because it was all those years, whether it was selling cat equipment or doing this, that got some stuff going on, but all of those years of going on vacation, and I would get a phone call and I'd be like, I got to grab this real quick. And I'll never forget the very first time we're on a vacation somewhere, SeaWorld or wherever it was, and she got a phone call for a real estate deal. And I just sat back and I was like, yeah, now you know how
now you know what it's like. Yes.
And it was great. But I'm absolutely agree with you. You taking that week to go spend with them is so much better. The time is more quality. And I think that's a great piece that I just took out of what you said.
My wife has a tattoo right here on her arm, and it says, "Wherever you are, be there."
That's great.
And it resonates often in our family. It's like, okay,
That's a great.
if you're working, work, damn it.
Yeah.
But if you're with us, be with us.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciate that she did that as a reminder. And it was probably a reminder to me, but now she gets to practice it as well, being in real estate.
That's good.
I'm like, where am I going to put that ink? Somewhere.
Yeah.
But it is. It's absolutely true. We'll put it on the t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. There you go. 2024.
But I absolutely 100%. You got to do it 100% when you're there, and then take those times. And there's no balance in what we do. We talked about that a little bit this morning, I think, on the panel.
Yeah, the balance thing it's so hard because I have a young family. I have a 10-year-old boy, 7-year-old girl, 5-year-old girl, and then just last year had our last son. He's 1 now. So I'll confess it's easy to use that as an excuse.
Sure.
And unfortunately, I think, last year I had a little bit of a down year because it was easy to say, I'm not sleeping at all.
Right.
Like so I have a 1-year-old. So the last year I was raising a kid, but it's important to not use that as an excuse.
Right.
And as far as the balance and everything, and it's kind of like an internal struggle because I work hard, but I really am. I'm doing it for my family.
Correct.
I think of it as kind of like stacking blocks, I guess. Here I am, 1-year-old,
No, that
right?
makes sense.
First and foremost, I'm a husband. Second, I'm a dad.
Mm-hmm.
Third, I'm a loan originator.
That's right.
But if I don't focus on that third thing, the other two are going to fall down.
It's so true.
So that's why we do it, and it is hard. It's hard to balance it, and what's awesome is having a wife and a family that's supportive of it. Because if they weren't, it would make it even so much harder.
I have to agree. Yeah. No, that's a big thing for sure.
You say that, it makes me think of that old. I think it's on YouTube, a skit where it was the gentleman that wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he talks about where he sets out and he'll have like a jar of sand, jar of small rocks, medium rocks, and then these big rocks, and he's got a giant cylinder, and he's like, okay, put them all in there. And what it comes down to, basically, the shorter lesson of it is you can't fit all of those in there. So he talks about put in the big rocks first. And that's one of those, and I think of that exercise where it's like, okay, don't.
I love that. I've seen that
it's
video.
true. Yeah. Those things that we talked about, it's like, okay, I got to be a father. I have to be a husband. But we have to have a house to live in. So work has to go in there too.
That's right.
Then you start putting in the small rocks. But I guess to kind of wrap it all up, that's one of those where it's like, is put those rocks in, but one of those rocks has to be wherever you are.
Correct.
Be here.
Yeah.
And I think that's
that,
great.
yeah.
And where we are is Clearwater, Florida, looking at the ocean. So I think it's time
sun's poking out.
So I think it's time to wrap up
the
Keyer Factor podcast.
Yeah,
with
what?
The Ron takeover of the Keyer.
I
Factor.
love it. What a damn good host,
Let's go
man.
get some lunch.
I love the one thing on yours though is be a pro, and we didn't have time to get to it, but what is the one thing that you're going to do? Maybe we can get on sometime and do it, but what's the one thing you're going to do this year to be that pro?
We can run a quick one.
Yeah.
You want to run through it real quick?
What are you going to do to be a pro?
So I have made a commitment, not a goal, not a plan. I have made a commitment to put out at least 986 pieces of original content.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
What was the number?
986.
Wow. I'm curious how you came up with that number.
So
It's very specific, and that makes it's a good goal.
That's what it was.
It's very specific.
So it was. Let me think. I'm trying to remember what it is. So every day I do a morning market summary and then a market wrap. So I do those videos every business day. Every 2 weeks I do product prime time. So that's, a half hour, 45 minutes of content there. I've committed myself to doing, I can't remember if it's 40 or 45 of the road shows, which is where I'm doing live realtor trainings in our markets. So like 40, 45 of those. I have a personal blog where I go and I go back through I do a lot of reading, a lot of personal development. So what I do is I take notes.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Books
like, it's an
all
encyclopedia.
All my nerd stuff.
Yeah.
So it's things like, so part of why I was looking at turning pro is I take books, I take notes from the books, and then I take the notes from the books and do them in small segments and post them on the blog. So that way, if you don't have time to read turning pro, you can come on and I keep it in small segments and you can get it in pieces. So that way the people that aren't going to read the book, I want to be like, hey, this is pretty good. Maybe I will read this book. But like you get some of the lessons and stuff like that. So that's every Tuesday and Thursday. And then I think 20 of it is I actually committed. This is going to be the real interesting one.
I'm sorry I asked. No.
Then I also have to make. I also committed to making Jason, Chad, and Caleb do, I believe, 20 pieces of content. So I told them that they need. Awesome. I told them that they need to get more out there, and they went, "You're right, but you got to write it, fucker."
They pulled you in.
All those guys should be giving you one a month. It'd be great to have.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So,
what's your
me personally is to find that consistency within all that I'm doing, because I'll be honest, I'm wearing many different hats, and
you do wear a lot.
Many say that, but I really do, and I'll be honest, I don't know what the hell my life would be like if I didn't. I'd probably be bored out of my mind. I don't know, but I tend to take on more responsibility because I believe I can take it on. This year, I'm going to do a better job of prioritizing consistently. And that's something that I've struggled with my entire career.
It's finding the big rocks.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially, I have a great idea. I run with that idea, and anything that I do, I'm all in. So now these other pieces are being neglected. So within the idea of there's no balance, but there is consistency. And I think once you find that consistency balance, it becomes second nature. Because I've been in that groove before, to where it's like, okay, I'm on to the next thing and I'm on to the next thing. And by the time the day is over, it's like, that was a hell of a lot of production. But I think finding that again is my goal. And I think I'm going to find it really quickly. So yeah, I'm confident in it.
Yeah,
Isaac.
I'll keep mine short. I mean, mine comes down to discipline and accountability for me this year. Everyone always talks about motivation, but everybody has all the motivation in the world. It's easy to find motivation. Who isn't motivated by a higher paycheck? Sure. Who isn't motivated by a bigger house for their family? I mean, it's easy to talk about. It's easy to find that motivation, but if you don't have the discipline and then the personal accountability, you're not going to get anywhere. So that's something that I'm really focused on this year.
Solid.
You mentioned it, wearing all the hats, as a branch manager, and you too, we all have so much going on, and I have a problem saying no to outside things like, hey, you want to be on this board, you want to do this, home builders need this, the state home builders need that, and I've got to find a way to prioritize, the things, I think Vicky said, things that make you money.
Yeah.
Yes, those do, but not as direct. One of the things I got to do this year is better at using our total expert and being in communication with my referral partners.
Advice, get in there and break it.
I do. I have not got in there. And yet I expect all my loan officers to get in there and set up their groups and use it and whatnot. I've got to get in there and do that. And that's a goal of mine. Pre-COVID, I was really good at communicating with agents on every deal. Monday morning, here's what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And when all of a sudden you have 150, 200 deals that you close that year, you just can't. I mean, it's almost impossible to do that, originate, manage for loan officers. And so I want to rededicate myself to doing that and getting in touch with, keeping in touch with those, because I'm going to keep producing. That's awesome. Some level. Yes. I'm going to keep producing. You have to. So
I've got one last thing. Isn't it pretty freaking cool how, for some odd reason, you throw the headphones on, you put a mic in front of you, you give it a platform, and the conversations just like elevate like nobody's business. We could be sitting here with drinks in our hands, having the same conversation, but it wouldn't get to the level that this one just did.
Now we can share it with people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I agree. 100%.
And we get to go do it with drinks in our hands.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to the Fear Factor podcast.
The Rod and Mark show.
Clearwater out.